Welcome to Brainish English Stories.
We leave on the Celtic ship at 8 in the morning, said Honoria, pulling a loose thread from her lace sleeve. I heard that, said young Ives, dropping his hat and fumbling to catch it. I came to wish you a good trip. Of course you heard it, said Honoria, in a sweet but cold voice. We didn't have a chance to tell you ourselves. Ives looked at her sadly, but without much hope. Outside in the street, a high voice sang, Candy. Nice, fresh candy. It's our old Candyman, said Honoria, leaning out the window and waving. I want some of his motto kisses. They are better than anything in the Broadway shops. The Candyman stopped his cart in front of the old house on Madison Avenue. He looked happy and festive, which was not usual for street sellers. His tie was new and bright red, and a big, shiny horseshoe pin was on it. His brown, thin face had a foolish smile. He had striped cuffs with dog-head buttons on his wrists. I think he's going to get married, said Honoria, feeling sorry for him. I never saw him like this before, and today is the first time in months that he has called out his candy, I am sure. Ives threw a coin to the sidewalk. The Candyman knew his customers. He filled a paper bag, climbed the old steps, and handed it in. I remember, said Ives. Wait, said Honoria. She took a small folder from the drawer of her writing desk, and from the folder, she took out a small piece of paper. This, said Honoria firmly, was wrapped around the first candy we opened. It was a year ago, said Ives, as he held out his hand for it. As long as skies above are blue. To you, my love, I will be true. He read this from the piece of paper. We were supposed to leave 2 weeks ago, said Honoria, chatting. It has been such a hot summer. The town is very empty. There is nowhere to go. But I heard that 1 or 2 of the roof gardens are fun. The singing and dancing there are liked by people. Ives did not react. When you are in a fight, you are not surprised when your opponent hits you. I followed the Candyman that time, said Ives, out of the blue, and gave him $5 at the corner of Broadway. He reached for the paper bag in Honoria's lap, took out one of the square, wrapped candies, and slowly unwrapped it. Sarah Chillingworth's father, said Honoria, has given her a car. Read that, said Ives, handing over the slip that was wrapped around the candy. Life teaches us how to live. Love teaches us to forgive. Honoria's cheeks turned pink. Honoria, cried Ives, jumping up from his chair. Miss Clinton, corrected Honoria, standing up like a goddess from the sea. I told you not to say that name again. Honoria, repeated Ives, you must listen to me. I know I do not deserve your forgiveness, but I must have it. Sometimes a madness takes over someone, and they are not responsible for their actions. I forget everything else but you. I break the chains that held me. I reject the woman who took me away from you. Let the Candyman's words speak for me. It is only you that I love. Let your love forgive, and I promise you that mine will be true, as long as skies above are blue. On the west side, between 6th and 7th Avenues, there is an alley in the middle of the block. It ends in a small courtyard in the center. The area has a lot of theaters, and people from many countries live there. The place feels artistic, with many languages spoken, and it is a bit risky. In the courtyard at the back of the alley lived the Candyman. At 7 o'clock, he pushed his cart into the narrow entrance, placed it on the uneven stones, and sat on one of the handles to cool down. A strong wind blew through the alley. There was a window above the spot where he always stopped his cart. In the cool afternoon, Miss Adele, a performer at the aerial roof garden, sat at the window to enjoy the air. Her long, dark red hair was usually down, so the breeze could help her maid, Sydney, dry and arid. She wore a light purple scarf around her shoulders, which photographers loved to capture. Her arms were bare up to the elbow, and even the bricks in the alley should have admired them. While she sat there, another maid, Felice, would massage and clean her small feet, which the audience loved to watch every night. Slowly, Miss Adele began to notice the Candyman stopping to wipe his forehead and cool down under her window. While her maids worked, she had no men to charm and capture with her looks. This made her unhappy. Here was the Candyman, not a good target for her charms, but still a man. After giving him cold looks many times, one afternoon she suddenly smiled at him, making his sweets look less appealing. "Candyman," she said sweetly, while Sydney brushed her heavy auburn hair, "don't you think I am beautiful?" The Candyman laughed roughly and looked up, wiping his forehead with a red and blue handkerchief. "You'd look good on a magazine cover," he said grudgingly. "Beautiful or not, it doesn't matter to me. It's not my thing. If you want compliments, ask someone else between 9 and 12. I think it's going to rain." Charming a Candyman is like hunting rabbits in deep snow, but Miss Adele tried anyway. She pulled a big coil of hair from Sydney's hands and let it fall out the window. "Candyman, do you have a girlfriend with hair as long and soft as this? And with an arm so round?" She showed her arm across the windowsill. The Candyman laughed loudly as he fixed the butterscotch candies that had fallen. "Keep dreaming," he said rudely. "I'm too smart to fall for a bit of hair and a newly massaged arm. Sure, you'll look good on stage with lots of makeup and music playing under the old apple tree. But don't think I'd run off and marry you. I've seen fake blondes and makeup before. Seriously, don't you think it's going to rain?" "Candyman," said Mademoiselle softly with a smile, "don't you think I'm pretty?" The Candyman grinned. "Saving money, huh?" he said. "Being your own press agent. I haven't seen your face on any cheap cigars. It would take a new kind of woman to impress me. I know women from their hairpins to their shoelaces. Give me a good day's sales, a steak and onions dinner at 7, a pipe, and an evening paperback in the courtyard, and I won't need even a famous actress to wink at me." Mademoiselle pouted. "Candyman," she said, softly and deeply, "you will say that I am beautiful. All men say so, and you will too." The Candyman laughed and took out his pipe. "Well," he said, "I have to go. There's a story in the evening paper I'm reading. Men are diving in the seas for treasure, and pirates are watching them from behind a reef. And there isn't a woman in the story. Good evening." And he pushed his cart down the alley and back to the old courtyard where he lived. To anyone who doesn't understand women, it might seem strange, but Mademoiselle sat at the window each day trying to charm the Candyman. Once, she made a noble visitor wait for half an hour while she tried in vain to win over the Candyman. His rough laugh hurt her pride. Every day he sat on his cart in the alley breeze while her hair was being done, and every day her beauty had no effect on him. Her pride was hurt, and she gloated at him in a way that would have sent other admirers into a dream. The Candyman looked at her with half-hidden amusement, pushing her to use her strongest charm. One afternoon, she leaned far out the window and did not tease him as usual. "Candyman," she said, "stand up and look into my eyes." He stood up and looked into her eyes, his laugh rough like sawing wood. He took out his pipe, fumbled with it, and put it back in his pocket with a shaky hand. "That will do," said Mademoiselle, smiling slowly. "I must go now to my massage. Good evening." The next evening at 7, the Candyman came and rested his cart under the window. But was it the same Candyman? His clothes were new and checkered. His tie was bright red with a shiny horseshoe pin. His shoes were polished. His tan cheeks looked paler. His hands were clean. The window was empty, and he waited under it, looking up like a dog hoping for a treat. Mademoiselle came, with Sydney carrying her hair. She looked at the Candyman and smiled slowly, but then she looked bored. She knew she had one, and quickly got tired of it. She started talking to Sydney. "It's been a nice day," said the Candyman, sounding empty. "First time in a month, I felt really good. Shouted out my candy calls on old Madison like I used to. Think it will rain tomorrow?" Mademoiselle put her arms on the window cushion and rested her chin on them. "Candyman," she said softly, "don't you love me?" The Candyman leaned against the brick wall. "Lady," he said, chokingly, "I've got $800 saved up. Did I say you weren't beautiful? Take it all and buy a collar for your dog with it." A sound like 100 tiny bells rang out from Mademoiselle's room. Her laughter filled the alley and reached back to the courtyard, as strange there as sunlight. Mademoiselle was amused. Sydney, like an echo, added a deep but loyal laugh. The Candyman finally seemed to understand. He fumbled with his horseshoe pin. At last, Mademoiselle, tired from laughing, turned her beautiful face back to the window. "Candyman," said she, "go away. When I laugh, Sydney pulls my hair. I can't stop laughing while you are there." "Here is a note for Mademoiselle," said Felice, coming to the window. "There is no justice," said the Candyman, lifting the handle of his cart and moving away. He moved a few steps and stopped. Loud cries came from Mademoiselle's window. Quickly, he ran back. He heard a body falling on the floor and the sound of heels hitting it. "What is it?" he called. Sydney's serious face appeared in the window. "Mademoiselle is very sad," she said. "Someone she loved with all her heart is gone. You might have heard of him. His name is Monsieur Ives. He sails across the ocean tomorrow." "Oh, you men,"